everyone, thanks for joining in, or thanks for tuning in. Just thought I'd do another video before I start work. I'm going to be leaving for Glossop, for the office in Glossop soon. It's now 6 AM and I've got a big weekend ahead of me. I've not got my daughter this weekend, she's with her mum, so that's well, obviously it's not great because I miss her. But it means I've got time to devote to the bike. So we'll be continuing with day 2 of the recommissioning diary of the Honda, the CB750. Going to be doing that on Saturday, so I hope to post that up on Saturday night. Obviously my time's limited because I've got work. I work full time, and as I say, I'm a single dad, so a lot of my time is devoted to childcare, and I wouldn't want it any other way either. So the recommissioning diary, and it is a recommissioning, and not renovation or kind of taking this back to concourse. It's going to be a rideable bike. It's going to take a bit of time. But what I wanted to kind of talk about today, it came as a feeling or thought from some comments that had been left on the videos, particularly around kind of accessibility of YouTube channels and diversity. Looking at my demographics of the channel, it's only a small channel, it's only just started. It is overwhelmingly male, overwhelmingly older male as well. Very few females, very few young people. And I think that's kind of common with most motorcycle related channels actually. And it got me thinking about kind of why that is, and also motorcycling in general, in terms of why is motorbike YouTube dominated by older, typically white men. And I guess you'd think, you know, why is it so male dominated? Has that always been the case with motorbike? I'm not too sure, I don't know. And it makes you think about kind of motorcycling in general. Now, I don't know about kind of world trends or anything, but certainly in terms of the UK, it appears that fewer and fewer people are riding bikes. Yeah, less than ever before, really. And the most popular kind of bikes seem to be these bikes that kind of ate back to a previous era, you know, the so-called modern classic. You know the bikes I mean, a lot of the Royal Enfield range, a big chunk of the Triumph range as well. They, you know, in terms of looks, design, they're trying to ape bikes that have, you know, been and gone from the 50s, 60s and 70s really. And also there's a kind of popular misconception, I think, and certainly you get that coming through from YouTube content creators, that, you know, why aren't young people interested in this kind of stuff? Why aren't they interested in motorcycling? And also the kind of fairly derogatory things about young people themselves. You know what it's like, you know, that they're cosseted, that they, you know, they don't, you know, not prepared to suffer the hardships of being a motorcyclist, which is like crazy kind of thing to say. Like, so you know, all you need to do is look at things like the X Games, and you know that the young people are just not like that. They're like, you know, young people have been the same throughout time, really, and the older generations always look down disparagingly on them. So it's all a myth, really. I'm convinced it's a myth, really. So, you know, the fact is, really, if we're honest about it, the most cosseted demographic in our society are the boomers. Probably the people who are watching this channel, you're the most cosseted in our society. When you think about it, you grew up, or the boomers grew up, with full employment, and employment that paid well, living wage, decent wage for decent jobs, free healthcare, free education, decent education as well, and most importantly, access to plentiful and affordable housing. These are the things of life, really. And certainly the boomer generation had all that in spades. The generations that came after it, I'm not boomer, I'm pleased to say. I came after that. So I grew up in 1980s Liverpool. And, that was a time of hardship. And the people that I resonated with are actually people from the 1930s who went through similar things in terms of unemployment. Liverpool in the 1980s was a really dark place, and that thing of unemployment has been a blight on my life and a blight on other people's lives who grew up from it. So you might not like to think it, but if you're a boomer, you're the most cosseted of all the generations. So, and it's those facts that, mean boomers are the demographic for motorbiking. And the reasons for that are simple. Firstly, they've got disposable income. They're more likely to have secure parking, obviously, access to housing, bought their own homes, own it outright, possibly with a driveway, possibly with a nice yard or garden where they can build a shed, or possibly even with a garage. Because obviously owning a motorbike, it's really useful if you've got those kind of things, because if you don't, it means owning a motorbike is another proposition altogether. Imagine if you live in a high rise, so it's not going to work. And you probably don't need to rely on it as a daily form of transport. Firstly, because you're probably not going to work. And you've probably got other means of transport anyway, whether that be private car or your bus pass. So, you don't need to rely on a motorbike as a routine form of transport. So it means motorbiking is ideally suited to you. You're perfect for it. You've got all the required credentials for it. That probably explains the reasons why young people aren't getting involved in motorbiking at the minute. They don't have the disposable income. Jobs that they do have don't pay a living wage. Most of their wages, what they get, go on housing costs, because housing is just so expensive. And it's so expensive because it's in short supply. And because they're more likely to live in places without access to secure parking. As I say, having a motorbike if you live in a high-rise block of flats, it's just not going to work. So let's not be dishonest about this. We know the reasons why, motorbiking isn't as popular with young people as it used to be. And we've also got to be honest about motorbiking itself, and you can see the reasons why. Because it's great, it is fantastic. They're beautiful objects to look at, objects of desire, and they're great fun to ride, and that's what it is, it's fun. So it's pastime, it's something that you can do on sunny summer afternoons, country roads, even a bit of an opportunity to cosplay if you want to, you've got lots of opportunities there. You can do the full Power Ranger look if you're into sports bikes, or you can go back to the 60s, kind of the rocker kind of stuff, like those, which I'm kind of partial to myself. Or you can do the, if you're into even older bikes, like the waxed cotton kind of look. Oh, good. I have to say, I'm not a fan of I know a lot of older motorcyclists wear this kind of Cajora, this kind of functional, waterproof membrane, and it was like dull. It was like kind of stuff that you go to work in. Really, I don't think it's very nice stuff. Really, it also gives you an opportunity to indulge in this fantasy of looking cool. Horrible name, horrible word, but looking cool. And if we're honest, we all do that, because basically I think a lot of motorcycling is tied up in kind of feelings of nostalgia. What we grew up looking at, we covet what we see. And I grew up in the 1970s. I was born in the late 60s. So kind of formative years were in the 1970s. And my love of bikes comes from them. I think I mentioned in a previous video, like my elder brother's friends, they used to come to our house, and one of them had a GT 750 Suzuki, and another had a CB 750 Honda. And those bikes were beautiful. They just parked them outside, and they were like kind of, works of wonder. And I'd just like kind of sit outside looking at them. But not only that, I used to go on holidays with my mum. And in those days, it was coach holidays, normally to North Wales or the Midlands. Go to the Midlands on holiday, can you imagine that? And we'd get on a coach, and I remember coming back, from these places, and the coach would be suddenly engulfed by a load of bikers, and proper bikers, like the ton-up kind of guys, and they were on those kind of calf racer kind of looks, probably 70s Hondas, Suzukis as well, Kawasaki. But I think we've also got to be honest in the sense that as an everyday form of transport now, a motorbike isn't great. It is dangerous, mostly because of the volume of traffic on the roads at the minute. It is kind of outrageous. Like where I live, I dread going out on my bike at certain times of the day. It's just not worth it. And in the UK as well, for 4 months of the year, you're roasting hot on a bike, and for the remaining 8 months of the year, you're either wet or perishing cold. So it's in a lot of cases it's not pleasant. So it's only pleasant when you can pick and choose when you want to use it. And I know what I speak. For 3 years in the late 90s, I had a bike which was my sole means of transport for me and my girlfriend. It was a Kawasaki ZZR 600, which was a great bike just for what I was doing. So I'd use it for work every day. We'd go shopping on it. We'd even go on holidays on it. So I used it for everything. And it was probably the perfect kind of bike for that, really, because it was reasonably manageable. Bit of a porker, but reasonable, manageable. Good protection from the elements. And it looked nice as well. It was easy to maintain. So let's think about where motorcycling is, in our society, where it's popular. So it is popular just with older males, and that's reflected in the bike market, because it seems to be the most popular kind of motorbike in a diminishing market is this so-called modern classic. Your Royal Enfield classic 350s, 500s, effectively the Bullet, Continental GT, Interceptor, and all the Triumph range. And they're companies, they're profit-making companies. They're chasing a buck. They know where the market is, so they know where to market it. And so they're not marketing to younger people. They're marketing to older, boomers with money. And we know, like, the Enfield range is kind of reasonable price, and that BSA, the Gold Star, be tumbling in price. I've got more to say about that, but bloody hell. But the Triumph stuff, that's premium bloody bikes there. Actually, they're dead expensive. And I think to myself, you know, this is kind of crazy. I get a little bit disheartened. If you genuinely want to attract younger people into motorcycling, you've got to produce a range of models that's going to appeal to them. And many of you won't like what I'm going to say now, but that probably means doing something a little bit more in terms of smaller capacities and electric bikes. You know, what's wrong with electric bikes? I don't understand why some people get so het up about it. You know, potentially the perfect solution to this and a new thing that could revolutionise what motorbikes look like. You know, I know you've seen examples of electric bikes with what looks like a fuel tank on them. What the hell do you need a fuel tank for on an electric bike? Form's got to kind of follow the function. And if the form follows the function, you'll actually get a good object that people desire, really. So yeah, the modern classic's a bit weird now, because I guess I've got one. I've got a 535 Continental GT, which I love. It's a really nice bike, but my reasons for purchase are entirely emotional, because it's got that kind of clubman's racer look. But it ain't no clubman's racer. It can barely do bloody motorway speeds. And if it does, you know, your fillings are coming out and your hearing's being permanently damaged. So none of this is good for motorcycling, really. You know, modern classics don't seem to appeal to younger people. And those people that they do appeal to are dying. And I think this is being borne out in a number of areas. Certainly we know the classic market has taken a hit recently. The bottom's fallen out about it. I know when I was looking around for bikes last month, I was surprised how many Triumphs I was able to pick up for my budget, and I've got a small budget. I tell you, I've got a small budget. Bikes that I previously didn't think I'd have a chance of getting were suddenly within my reach, purely because the market had just collapsed. Strangely enough, the Japanese market hasn't actually, or not from what I could see. That was still kind of quite strong, the Japanese market. And again, I think that is all about demographics. So 60s bikes, those people who are going to seek them out, there are fewer of them. But there are still plenty of people looking for 70s bikes, and it's just the nature of things. The cycle of life, if you like, really. So that kind of brings me on to, I did mention it earlier, this BSA Gold Star. I like every other motorcyclist. I've got romantic notions of the British motorbike, and you know, BSA, strangely enough, from what I understand, it was your meat and potatoes kind of brand, really. It was never going to set the world on fire. It was never one of the glamorous brands. It wasn't the Triumph, it wasn't the Norton. It was your meat and potatoes kind of bike, except for one bike, the Gold Star. And the Gold Star's kind of gone into myth and legend, really. Because it's a race bike. It was the Fireblade, it was the Panigale of its day. And you know, its day was it had a long life. Actually, I think it first came to life in the 1930s. It went right the way through until the 60s. But it was it was a race bike. It wasn't for use on the road, although it was really difficult to ride. High compression. You needed to rev the arse off it to get anywhere. You certainly didn't want to stall it. But it was, that's your pinnacle of kind of BSA's bikes. So this new outfit, new BSA company, has launched, and they've released a bike called the Gold Star. And in terms of styling, it's got some similarities to the original. But what I'd say is, if you're buying that bike, you are buying a bike from a company named BSA, and you are buying a bike with the name of Gold Star. But if you're labouring under the impression that it's got any relationship to the original BSA Gold Star, you're going to be sadly mistaken, because they're like chalk and cheese. The Gold Star was, as I say, it was the Fireblade of its day. This new Gold Star is your meat and potatoes plodder. And to my mind, it doesn't even look particularly nice. And I actually think a lot of people have tagged on to that. That's why the prices have plummeted. I think it started, it was released, it was around 7.5 grand. Now it's new, it's 4. There's no resale in it. So, you know, it's strange. And the other thing is Triumph. Now, when Triumph was relaunched, the Hinckley models, I was really excited about that. I even bought one. I bought a Speed Triple, a Mark 1. And, yeah, lovely bike, lovely to look at. I didn't like riding. It was too bloody top heavy. But when they launched, they you know, I thought, this is great, this. They've relaunched Triumph, and they're doing it well. They've got a nice modular range of bikes, and they introduced their sports bike at the time of the kind of the Fireblade and the 916 Ducati. Their offering into that kind of market segment was the T595, and I remember seeing it in yellow. I thought, God, that's a lovely looking bike. It's beautiful. It's a really nice bike, and it fit really well into that segment, the T595, and they named it the Daytona. I thought, that's great. You know, the Daytona's got, you know, a good heritage name to it, and so they put it on their premium sports bike. Fantastic. And then what did they do when they launched the Bonneville? Now, keep in mind, the Bonneville was Triumph's premium bike. It was their Fireblade. So if you're going to launch a bike called Bonneville, it's got to go on the most premium sports bike, because that's what the Bonneville was. It's got to go on that. Instead, they stick it on this bloody pastiche of a bike from the 60s. That's not giving reverence to what the Bonneville name is about. The Bonneville should be a premium sports bike, competing with the Fireblades, with the R1s, with the Panigales. Not competing with bloody Royal Enfield. So I don't know. Anyway, I'm going to have to start getting ready for work now. But I hope you join us over the weekend, because I'll be getting back to work on my old boomer bike, my CB750. Going to do the walk around, check out what parts I need. Hopefully not too many, because I don't want to spend any more bloody money. And we'll see you then. Okay, thanks for tuning in. Remember to like and subscribe. I am enjoying doing this, but obviously it's, you know, it's hard work, and I do appreciate the likes and the follows, and any comments that you make would be really good. Okay, bye-bye.